Welcome back to another episode of the Glory Reds FC podcast. You're joined with myself, D, and today I'm going to be giving you guys the match reaction of Manchester United versus Galatasaray in our Champions League group stage match. Now, I'm going to be alone in today's episode. It's unfortunate that Ben can't join us today, but he will definitely be with us in the next episode to come. So let's get straight into this. Yesterday, Erik ten Hag chose his lineup and was as follows: Andre Onana as our goalkeeper, our right back Diego Dalot, Varane Lindelof centre back pairing, and Amrabat as our left back. In the midfield, we had Mason Mount, Casemiro, and Mabry. Up front, we had Rashford, Højlund, and Bruno Fernandes. So that's the team that Erik ten Hag chose to go up against Galatasaray yesterday. Now, obviously, we had our predictions in terms of which team is going to put out. This is somewhat close to what we predicted, although we did believe that he was going to start Eriksen in place of Maybury, or he was going to start Pelestri in place of Maybury. So I guess that's one thing we didn't get off the bat, but in terms of everything else, pretty much accurate. Of course, there were the rumors about Onana not starting, given the performances that he had prior to this match, but we did deem that as most of it being rumors, and indeed we did see him starting yesterday. So just to give you guys a quick summary of how we played yesterday, the game got off to an okay start. We managed to score our first goal, beautiful goal coming through from Rasmus Højlund, assist from Marcus Rashford, which we scored in the 17th minute of the first half. Shortly after that, one of our former players, Wilfried Zaha, came through in the 23rd minute to equalize for Galatasaray. The first half ended with the score square at 1-1. Second half begins and Christian Eriksen is immediately substituted on for Hannibal Mabry. I guess it was a tactical decision. I don't recall Maybury being substituted off due to injury. Maybe that's something I could have missed. But yeah, Eriksen came in the second half, I guess, to get a better hold of the midfield, because as usual, we were being run around in the midfield. So in the 67th minute, Rasmus Højlund went and scored our second goal. Things were looking good for Manchester United. We thought we could actually go ahead and win the game. But unfortunately, United crumble, and 4 minutes afterwards, Galatasaray went and scored their second goal to equalize the score at 2-2. Onana played a terrible pass, which Casemiro had to make a reckless tackle, which gave him his second yellow card and a red card, which sent him off the pitch. That red card resulted into a penalty, which Icardi missed, but shortly afterwards went and scored in the 81st minute to seal the game 3-2. Antony, back from Brazil, was introduced in the game in the 85th minute to substitute Mason Mount, and then in the 89th minute we brought in Anthony Martial. And like I said, the game ended 3-2. So yeah, that's a short summary of basically what happened during the match. Now, I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on the match as a whole. I think compared to the Crystal Palace match, there were more consistent plays in this match in particular than in the Crystal Palace match. It looked like for some spells of the game we did have some sort of control. We did have more possession than Galatasaray, but by small margins, and it looked like we were able to get the ball in good positions at certain times of the game. Now, obviously, our biggest problems is our injuries, more specifically to our defenders. And it really showed in the game because there was a huge imbalance between the defense and the midfield, leaving a lot of pockets of space that Galatasaray were infiltrating and taking advantage of those situations. And as you see in the type of goals that they scored, it was a result because of that. But overall, the game wasn't played that bad, regardless of us losing, but it still does not reflect in any positive way because we never managed to leave that game with a point. So There were some standout performances, of course, from Rasmus Højlund, scoring two beautiful goals. The first one coming through with Rashford with an assist from the right hand side. And then the second one was more of a solo effort that he drove himself into the box and scored our second goal. It's such a shame that this loss has shadowed Rasmus' good performance that he had yesterday, and there's huge cause for concern. There's cause for concern in terms of how certain players are playing. There's cause for concern in terms of how the manager is managing these players, in terms of how he's managing the team, his team selection, his substitutes. At the times in which he's bringing on these players. For example, Anthony Martial. He brought him on in the 89th minute of the game with a 1 minute to spare. And of course, I don't know if that extra time was already announced or not, but basically it was not going to be enough time for him to make an actual impact in that game. And for that short spell that he played for, you could actually see there was a glimmer of of positivity from his game. You could see that if he was given more time in that game, maybe even 20 or 30 minutes, there was a possibility he could have made a huge difference in that game. So it's a huge pity that we're not getting to see more of Martial and that he's being brought in at the later stages of the game. Marcus Rashford right now is not playing very well. And I do believe that Martial should be given a fair chance to start ahead of Rashford if Rashford is not currently playing to the best of his form. Now, I get it. He got the assist, and we all know that Rashford, in the spur of a moment, can produce something, an assist or a goal. But overall, his gameplay is very poor, and we can't always rely on his little moments of brilliance for us to save us or get us out of bad situations during the game. I would rather have a more consistent player for 90 minutes than have a player that I can only count on for small spells of the game. So personally, I believe that Martial should be given a chance to be playing more, and I do believe that that can also help increase our chances of getting better results to come. So yeah, and then probably another player that had a good game as well was Victor Lindelof. He still continues to play very well in this team with the absence of Martinez. Although he was off position when it came to, I think it was the second goal. He should have been in position, and I think he didn't really fight to get back in terms of marking to win the ball back. But I think after him, he also had a good game. Amrabat continues to play well. Now, obviously, he's not a natural defender, so I'm not expecting a lot from Amrabat in terms of his defensive duties because that's not his position. That's not his natural position. Yes, we have been told that he's a player that has played in almost all the positions in the game, but at the end of the day, each player has a position that they're very unique to or they're very good at. So we would love to see Amrabat in the midfield paired up with Casemiro, but obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon because Casemiro got that red card. But it would have been a nice option to have him in the midfield and then having one of our other defenders playing in that back four, like we announced in our match preview. It would have been nice to see Victor Lindelof playing where Delot is playing right back and then moving Delot to the left back position and then have our midfield pairing of Varane and Harry Maguire or Evans or Johnny Evans. And obviously, look, I get they're not the best defenders right now, but they're the only available defenders that we have at the moment. And I do believe that we'll be better off having defenders, regardless of the defensive or how good they are to the next person in that defensive line, and then utilizing players like Amrabat who are going to be more effective for us moving forward, advancing the ball forward and creating more opportunities for us to be scoring goals. Because at this moment in time, our defense is shaky. Our goalkeeper is he's, he's short of confidence, so to say. We all know that he was brought in because of his ability to play out from the back, right? And that apparently he's good with his feet. Now, I don't know much about Onana. Maybe you guys know more than I do, right? I just knew about him probably in Champions League last season, and that was at the later stages of the tournament. And then obviously when that news came around, when United were looking to buy the player. So I don't know what his level of ability is. I'm still yet to see that, and I'm sure a lot of Manchester United fans are also yet to see his full capability, like what he can actually do. And I do believe he is a better player than he currently is displaying. Obviously, right now at the club, there's a lot of pressure on the team. There's a lot of pressure on the manager. Things are not going our way. We didn't get backed up in the transfer window coming into the season, and then of course we have a plethora of injuries that are plaguing this team. We do not have that defensive tight unit that De Gea had last season, that could afford the keeper maybe to not get into certain games with all the confidence, but then still have the backing of a very strong defensive line to support those weaknesses or flaws during the game. So right now, for Nana, it's a combination of, you know, his confidence levels not being where they should be, and at the same time, us having a very disorganized and messy, leaky defensive line. So those are just some of the things that need to be corrected. Other than that, I think this game it could have been won. It could have been won, and it just boiled down to small errors, small indecisions, which at the end of the day is not a good look for us. Like I said, when you look at the stats, we dominated in most of the stats. Obviously, not by much, but the fact of the matter is we did dominate in most of the stats, and we could have done more with all the things we were better at. So, for example, our total crosses were 21 as opposed to 8 for Galatasaray. But out of those 21 total crosses that we made, only 19% of those were accurate. Whereas in terms of Galatasaray, 50% of their crosses were more accurate than ours. So clearly, they are playing better. They do have more quality off the ball than what we have. So we can sort of take the stats and see where we need improvement. Because so far, like I said, stats are looking way better in terms of us against them. Total shots we had 16, they had 14. Shot on target we had 5, they had 4. Shot accuracy 31 versus 28, right? But then you look at the score line and it's 3-2, whereas it simply could have been the other way around if it wasn't for minor mistakes, if it wasn't for lack of quality off the ball, etc., etc. But I do believe that the next time we will meet, we will have I don't want to say a stronger lineup, but a more balanced and a more complete lineup, because this lineup that we put out there wasn't balanced and it wasn't complete, so to say. So hopefully, um, all those things can be ironed out by the next time we meet them. Um, yeah, and obviously that'll be an away fixture, so it will be a difficult match to have. So anyway, where to from here? What's next for us, right? Obviously we're playing Copenhagen next. I don't watch Copenhagen play, but it seems like they haven't managed to get the best of any of the teams in this group, because we are at the bottom of this group, together with them. Of course, we haven't won a game. They drew, I think it was with Galatasaray that they drew. So, at least they managed to get a point. So we need to beat them when they come, because it will be a home game again. So we really need to get a point off Copenhagen. If we're not going to manage to get a point off Copenhagen, then we might as well write off this Champions League season and hope we can finish in top four and try again next season. It's a must win. It's really it's a must win for us to have any chance of us advancing past this group stage. And not only that, but the next returning fixtures for us, we need to get 3 points. That means we need to go and beat Galatasaray, and we need to go and beat Bayern, and then of course come back and beat Copenhagen again. So sort of shot ourselves in the foot by losing the first two games, because now it has added more pressure onto our plate. Silver lining, most likely we're going to go for the return fixtures. Obviously, Casemiro is going to be back, and we can only cross our fingers that the injured players that we have at the club are going to be full fit and recovered. And not only that, but we also have to rely on Copenhagen and Bayern to actually get a result of Galatasaray after this, because that'll also be hugely dependent on how we're going to finish, regardless of whether we get the points or not, because they are ahead of us in terms of points. How many points? Let me just check real quick what this table is looking like. All right, so in our group, sitting at first place, obviously is Bayern with 6 points, Galatasaray with 4, Copenhagen with 1, and then of course us with 0. So if Galatasaray continue to win their games and we also win ours, it's not going to make any difference. Probably the determining match will come down to when we face them again. So it'll be determined who would win that match. But like I said, I think Galatasaray would need to lose at least one more game if we have to go and win all our next games to come for us to qualify into the group stage, out of the group stage, sorry. And if we can't get that done, then it's Europa. You know what I mean? And honestly, I would rather us not get into the Europa League. I'd rather us fall out of competing to be in Europa, because I really can't do Thursday night football again, to be honest. And I think it'll just be a waste of our time being in the Europa League competition, because we're not going to win that competition at the rate that we are going, and it's just going to give more opportunities or allow more space for our players to get injured or tired, etc. So if we don't make anything of this Champions League, I'd rather we just fall out of the European competitions completely and just focus on the domestic titles, focus on finishing in top 4, focus on going in, to the FA Cup final or something, or reclaiming the EFL League Cup. I don't know, but not to be dropped into the Europa League and competing for a trophy that we clearly have no chance winning. And I honestly believe it'll just be a waste of our time. But anyway, guys, that's my match reaction of our match against Galatasaray. And yeah, our next Premier League fixture is this weekend, and we are going to be facing, let me check real quick, Brentford. That's going to be a Saturday match, so we're definitely going to have a match preview of that. That's going to be released most likely on Friday, and we should have Benito back for that episode. So thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Glory Reds Podcast FC. You can catch us on all your favorite podcasting listening platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Zencaster, Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe. When you're on those platforms, subscribe so that every time a new episode comes out, you can get that notification and you can go listen to what we have to say. Don't forget to visit our website as well, gloryredsfc.co.uk. You can go to our community page. You can join in our WhatsApp group. We have conversations every single day. It was actually a heated conversation yesterday during the match, and we're throwing around our opinions on certain players, the manager. The conversation continued throughout to this morning. So if you're interested in having those type of conversations, go to our website, go to the community page, and you'll find the link to our WhatsApp group, and you can go and join us over there. We also have links to our social media platforms as well. You can go and follow us there for news updates, and when we have a podcast episode out, we also have some snippets there, etc. And then of course, our Premier League fantasy, our fantasy Premier League, we also have a link to that on our community page, so you guys can also go and join in on that. But thanks again for listening to this episode of the Glory Reds FC podcast, and we'll definitely catch y'all in the next one. Peace.